Usher just turned a fan complaint into a running joke at his own show, and the woman at the center of it is not laughing. This one starts on July 25th at Nissan Stadium in Nashville during the joint tour with Chris Brown. Usher pulls a woman named Gabrielle Cheyenne up on stage for his "Can You Handle It?" bit, the same routine he's done 1,000 times, B-prop and all. Except this time the fan doesn't play along. She's stiff, she pulls away when he gets close, and the body language is doing all the talking. Usher clocks it immediately, stops the choreography mid-performance, turns to the crowd and says he doesn't think she wants to be up there. Then he waves her off stage. Normal night, forgettable moment, except somebody in the crowd had a phone out, and that clip did not stay in Nashville. Within hours, it's everywhere. The internet's initial read is brutal and immediate. She looks uncomfortable, borderline miserable, next to a performer doing his most sensual number. The comments section turns it into a referendum, and her reaction, mocking the stiffness, the pulled back shoulders, the face she's making. It's the kind of clip that gets remixed, captioned, and quote posted into oblivion before the person in it even has a chance to explain herself. So Cheyenne explains herself. And this is where the story actually gets interesting, because her response didn't read like damage control. It read like someone doubling down. In a Facebook post that has since been taken down, she laid out her version. She and her mother had floor seats originally. Usher's team came through before the show and upgraded them to VIP. Nobody told her what she'd actually be doing if she got picked to go on stage. Her framing was that people don't realize what, yes, pretty privileges gets you access to. Being seen by thousands of people, ending up on the big screen, getting bumped to better seats without asking. She pushed back hard on the idea that she was uncomfortable or unwilling, insisting she knew exactly what she was doing and looked good doing it. That's the pivot right there. She's not apologizing for the stiff energy. She's reframing the entire clip as a flex. In her telling, this wasn't a woman caught off guard and visibly checked out. This was a woman who got an upgrade, got picked, got the exposure, and doesn't owe anyone enthusiasm for it. Her mother jumped in too, posting a photo of Gabrielle with Usher's wife taken after the show, which is its own detail worth sitting with. If the interaction had actually been as tense or disrespectful as the clip implied, a warm photo backstage with Usher's wife afterward doesn't really fit that narrative. That contradiction alone kept the story alive longer than a normal viral fan moment usually lasts. There's a smaller detail buried in the footage that added fuel to the fire too. Chris Brown, co-headlining the tour, was reportedly caught laughing when the Jumbotron cut to him during the moment Usher waved Cheyenne off stage. That single reaction shot got just as much circulation as the original clip, because it read as confirmation from someone standing right there that the exchange really was as awkward as it looked on camera. A co-headliner's unscripted laugh carries more weight than any caption ever could, and it's part of why the clip kept legs instead of dying out after the first day. Public reaction split almost immediately into two camps, and neither side backed down. One side is squarely in the camp, arguing she's allowed to admit she wanted the spotlight without pretending she was swept off her feet by Usher's dance moves, and that punishing a woman for saying she enjoyed attention is its own kind of double standard. The other camp isn't buying the reframe at all, pointing out that her demeanor on stage did not remotely match the confident, in-on-the-joke energy she's projecting after the fact. To them, this looks like revisionist history once the clip blew up and the mockery started, spinning an awkward moment into a victory lap, because the alternative is just being the punchline. Then there's a detail that undercuts her "I was there for the moment" narrative entirely. She also admitted she wasn't fully there for Usher in the first place. Her comments suggested she was at the show mainly for Chris Brown, who's co-headlining the tour. That's a significant thing to reveal after insisting she was thrilled to be picked for Usher's routine specifically. If the excitement was really about being seen and being upgraded rather than about Usher himself, that actually supports the original read on the clip. The stiffness wasn't stage fright, it just wasn't the artist she came to see. Usher, for his part, didn't put out a statement, didn't do a sit-down interview, didn't address it directly to cameras backstage. He handled it the way artists sometimes do when they want the last word, without looking like they're feuding with a fan. He worked it into the show itself. At the next stop, in Birmingham, before he brought anyone else up for the same segment, he stopped and added a disclaimer to the crowd. He told the audience not to come up there if they don't actually want to be there, got a big laugh, and then dropped a line referencing pretty privilege directly, joking that being good-looking doesn't automatically buy you a pass either. He said it with a smile, but the target was obvious to everyone who'd seen the Nashville clip. It's a smart move on his part. He didn't name her, didn't attack her, didn't engage with the back and forth happening in her comment section. He just turned the controversy into a bit that protects him going forward, literally building a verbal waiver into his own concert so the next viral moment doesn't happen on his stage. And it worked as a performance beat too. The next woman he picked in Birmingham, fully committed to the routine, big smile, played along the whole time, giving the crowd exactly the contrast they didn't get in Nashville. That contrast is doing a lot of work here, whether intentional or not. Putting an enthusiastic participant right next to the memory of Cheyenne's reaction reinforces the idea that her experience really was the outlier, not the norm. It's a subtle way of letting the audience draw their own conclusion without Usher having to say a single direct word about her. Entertainment outlets picked up on the Birmingham line almost instantly, running it as Usher responding or hitting back without ever using her name in his actual joke. That's notable because commentary sites are doing the connecting for him, framing it as a clapback, while he maintains just enough distance to never be accused of publicly dragging a fan. It's a clean piece of reputation management, whether or not it was calculated that way from the start. There's also a quieter industry angle worth flagging. Tours built around interactive fan segments live and die on unpredictability, and one bad clip can spread faster than any planned promotional moment. Usher's team responding with a scripted joke rather than a press statement shows how these situations increasingly get managed in real time, on stage, in front of a paying audience, instead of through publicist's carefully worded email days later. It's cheaper, faster, and it comes with built-in crowd approval since the joke lands live before anyone's had a chance to overthink it. Meanwhile, Cheyenne hasn't gone quiet. She's continued doing interviews and posting since the Birmingham comment surfaced, still standing on the pretty privilege framing rather than backing off it. That's led to a second wave of commentary, this time less about the original stage moment and more about her staying in the news cycle voluntarily. Some of the response online has shifted from mocking the stiff dance energy to questioning why she keeps giving interviews about a moment that could have faded in 3 days if she'd let it. There's a real segment of people who think she's chasing the attention now more than she ever was on that stage, which is its own irony, considering her entire defense was that she never wanted attention forced on her without consent. Yet she's the one keeping the story running a week later, while Usher says one joke and moves on with his tour. Beyond the two camps arguing online, there's a quieter, more practical debate happening among people who've actually been picked for these fan segments before. Some former concert goers who've been through similar moments at other shows have chimed in describing what it actually feels like up there, under lights in front of a stadium, with a routine you didn't rehearse and cameras you can't avoid. Their takeaway tends to land somewhere in the middle of the two loud camps, arguing that a person can genuinely enjoy the attention and still look stiff on stage simply because the whole thing happens fast and without warning, regardless of how they feel about it after the fact. That perspective doesn't fully vindicate either side of the debate, but it does complicate the assumption that discomfort on camera and excitement about the experience are mutually exclusive. And it's a point that's gotten far less circulation than the louder, more polarized takes dominating the timeline. Contradiction at the center of this whole thing is worth spelling out plainly. She can't fully have it both ways. Either she was uncomfortable being paraded in front of thousands of people without warning, which makes her sympathetic and makes Usher's team look careless for not explaining the segment beforehand, or she was fully aware, wanted the spotlight, and got exactly what she signed. Contradiction at the center of this whole thing is worth spelling out plainly. She can't fully have it both ways. Either she was uncomfortable being paraded in front of thousands of people without warning, which makes her sympathetic and makes Usher's team look careless for not explaining the segment beforehand, or she was fully aware, wanted the spotlight, and got exactly what she signed. Ep4, which undercuts the discomfort narrative from the original clip. Her public statements have leaned into both arguments depending on which platform she's posting on, and that inconsistency is exactly what's kept commenters unconvinced. There's also the question of what this does to Cheyenne, specifically going forward, separate from Usher's tour entirely. Viral moments like this one tend to follow people well past the news cycle that created them, showing up in searches of her name for years, resurfacing every time a similar clip goes viral from a different concert somewhere else. She's clearly aware of that risk and seems to be trying to control it by getting ahead of the narrative herself rather than letting other people define the moment for her, even if that strategy has arguably kept the story alive longer than silence would have. It's a common instinct in these situations, and it doesn't always work out the way the person hopes it will.